Bayside Studios, here in the heart of SUNY Purchase College. This is What the Fuck Are You Listening To? With your host, Paul Hoti.
Greetings. This is my, the inaugural of my new show, or podcast, or whatever you want to call it. What the fuck are you listening to? Hosted by me. The other two are not here. Well, actually, Mr. Redman is right behind me as we speak. He is producing this, which is very nice of him. And I guess, in case you haven't heard the podcast number 12 that we did, in the middle we sort of pitched, I guess, our ideas for new shows that we're going to do. And this was my idea, which is basically, I'm going to the idea is I want to expose you to the music I listen to, because these two don't really like the music I listen to. Like, they're not into it. So I guess I could use this as a kind of, venue to talk about the stuff I listen to, you know? And I guess I figured we could start off by talking about, as this is so narcissistic, but whatever. We could start off by talking about what formed my taste in this kind of stuff. Because it's like a lot of electronic music, a lot of rock, like alternative rock, and as Redman likes to say, film scores. As he said, I think there was that mini podcast. He's like the master of film scores, which I will gladly accept that compliment. But I get my first exposure to being an actual I'm gonna listen to music a lot. That kind of came with this. I think when I was about 12, a friend of the family kind of was living where I lived. He was just staying there for the summer, and he put on this song, and the song happened to be Pink Floyd's "Us and Them." And that's a really good starting point to get the shit I like, you know? So, of course, I guess to kick it off with probably the most popular thing I listen to, it's probably Dark Side of the Moon, that era of Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, Animals, Wish You Were Here, I guess The Wall, I listened to 1,000 times, Metal, which people don't talk about as much, and of course, at that time I got into Led Zeppelin too. I loved Radiohead. One of my first music memories, I guess, was my father. He didn't buy it for me, but I told him I want this. It was the best of Radiohead, which is the era. It's from their debut album to after Hail to the Thief, which came out in 2003. So it's that early 1990s to 2004 era. And I had it was just all the best hits basically. And I guess a few album tracks that were really cool. And that totally just kind of formed my taste for just really weird, electronic music and experimental, just stuff that sounded a bit left field of what you'd hear on the radio, what your friends would talk about. Which is weird because they're also one of the most popular bands on planet Earth, so that I guess that weird sort of rock sound kind of influenced where I'd go next. And so I guess if I had to put one record down as the essential for understanding what I listen to, it's Dark Side of the Moon. 40 minutes of, I think, one of the best records ever produced, I guess. Number 2 on my list is probably definitely the most obscure of the 3 records I'm going to tell you influenced what I like. And it's this ambient, it's called ambient electronic. It's from the early 90s, that sort of sound. If you like Aphex Twin, you'd get what I'm talking about. It's by it's a group called Global Communication, and the record's simply called 7614. And that's the record name. And all those tracks are they're all just numbers, basically. So track 1 is 402. Track 2 is 1401 or 1402, something like that. And it basically sounds like an extension of what the group Tangerine Dream, which if you're familiar with what they did in the 70s and 80s, like that sort of very, not new agey, but very kind of electronic, almost soundtrack sound. They kind of went, let's combine that with techno beats from the early 90s and house music from that era, and just let's make an album out of that. And it's definitely, it's a touchstone for what I like. It's incredible. And if you like Pink Floyd, I think you'd probably appreciate that. And then number 3 is, again, this is a bit more popular, of course. It's I'm a huge fan, as I said before, of film scores. And my number 1, and it gets a lot of shit in the, I guess, film score community, because it's not abrasive, but it's very loud and in your face. It's the Man of Steel score for the 2013 film Man of Steel. Of course, I'm saying it like it's some art house feature, but it's not. It's a movie with a flying person. And it's because I guess every single note I can remember, and that's pretty incredible. And it's very not simple, but it's very, like, the music's very, not basic, but it's very, like how Philip Glass, if you know what I'm talking about, it's like very minimalist. It's that same kind of composing style as most of Hans Zimmer's music is. Like, he says that he could play all of his music with one finger on a piano, or at least most of his themes. And that's basically the sound he goes for. But the sound design of what it actually sounds like is, it's incredible. It's epic, and just the scale is vast. But then there are moments where it's just beautiful and atmospheric and all that. So that's definitely the 3rd record. So, and I'm trying to keep the show at 7 minutes, and we just passed it. So to wrap up really quick, if you want to know what I like, listen to Dark Side of the Moon, Global Communications 76, and it's like, what do you call it, semicolon or colon 7613, and then the Man of Steel score, and that's basically it. And Redmond's right behind. He's walking. He's making his way to the mic, which means I'm done. Tune in next time on What the Fuck Am I Listening To?